This is the Roller and the Stroller podcast. I'm Josiah, the roller, and I was born with cerebral palsy and navigate the world in a wheelchair alongside my best friend Kelly, the stroller.
In this podcast, we discuss living with a disability, adapting to surroundings in a wheelchair, and the challenges we face together. We talk about things like going to concerts, traveling, everyday tasks, and sports.
But also get into deeper topics like religion, self-talk, medical needs, and some of the frustrations of using a wheelchair. We will give insight on how to enjoy life with a disability
and share advice on how to understand someone with a disability.
Welcome to the Roller and the Stroller.
This podcast is a Sidewallstudios production. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Roller and the Stroller with Josiah. Woo!
Hello.
Who is our roller?
Yes.
And me, Kelly, who is our stroller. Hi, Josiah. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm tired, man. It's 9:20 at night.
Yes, we decided to record at nighttime.
What we wanted to do with this podcast is kind of share both of our perspectives on normal things in life. Tell us why, Josiah. What are we trying to get across?
Well, I think that there is a beauty in perspective that we often don't see because we have not lived in each other's shoes. So we are hoping, or at least I am hoping with this podcast, we are able to share our perspectives with each other, and hopefully you gain something out of this and we gain something out of this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think when we talked about starting this podcast, it's very important, as friends, that we kind of understand each other's lives because we have such different views on everything. You as a non-stroller. And
yes, I am a roller. Which means I use a wheelchair. I have cerebral palsy from the waist, which affects me from the waist down. There are many different cases of cerebral palsy, but for me, it's from the waist down, which does not allow me to use my legs in a walking manner. And I try not to say that in like a negative way, which is why I tripped over my words just then. Because to me, I don't view it as a negative. It's just a different way that I live life comparatively to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I recognized how different my life has been since I met you. My life has definitely altered with us being best friends. I've had to look at the world differently and how you navigate it and how we navigate it together. And I think it's really awesome that we have this friendship because I think for sure for me, I've gotten a lot more, compassionate, I guess, because of that. And I really wanted to start this podcast to hopefully help others that might be in my situation where their best friend is in a wheelchair or maybe has another disability, because it can be tough at times. And we're going to talk about that from your point of view and how it's tough on you, and also me as a stroller, how it is a little bit difficult for me as we navigate, all the things that we do together. So that's why the name of this podcast is The Roller and the Stroller.
Yeah, it just means for me that I am a roller, which means I use a wheelchair, and you are someone who is non-disabled.
Correct. So let's talk a little bit about our goals of this podcast. Ultimately, I don't think there's like a big major goal. I think there's mini goals for me. Number one, I feel like I learn things about you and your community, whether that's disability or with CP, your communities in that way, almost every day. Like we talked about it today about something that we'll bring up in a later podcast about wheelchairs and manufacturers and stuff. And I literally had no idea what any of that meant. And you explained it to me. So even though we've been best friends, for how long now? How many years?
I think 5.
5 years. I'm still learning so much about you. And I think it's fascinating. And my friends that meet you also too are, it's new to them. So my goal here is every episode, we just kind of spread knowledge. So what about you?
For me, I did not start a podcast with my best friend on my 2023 bingo card, but then here we are. And I'm going to be honest with you, starting a podcast is something that I've always wanted to do, but never have had the courage to do. So thank you for allowing me to open up and inviting me to start this podcast with you.
Are you nervous to kind of talk about?
I am nervous. I am pretty introverted, as you know, and I find it hard at times to open up. there will be some episodes where I'm kind of quieter, and I encourage you to like get me to open up a little bit more, but this is going to be a journey for me.
Yeah. For sure. I know you're not like a huge fan of talking about yourself, so
I am not.
It's a huge step for you to do this. I kind of had to talk you into it, and you were like, me? A podcast about me? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I just think that, and this sounds a little bit cliche, but for me, I just want other people who may not be in my position or may not even be in your position to see that there are many ways to live your life and have a happy and fulfilling life, because I think oftentimes, and we'll get into this probably in later podcasts, that I run into people who view me as living a less fulfilling life, and again, that's a deeper topic, but I hope to show that going through the things that we have gone through and discussing the topics we will discuss, that I've had a fulfilling life.
I think my hope for this, again, is just to kind of spread awareness, but also connect more with you, because I think that's really important to me, is that I can help you in any way that I can, but it's both ways. Like, you help me so much, and I don't thank you enough for that, but of course we'll get into all of that stuff as we go on. But our host is just kind of give people a different perspective of what it's like to be in is it called interabled friendship? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
An interabled friendship, and also hear both points of view. And we'll bring some guests on too, that will also kind of spread what they think, and I'm excited to hear about that. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about ourselves. So Josiah, kind of give us a cliff notes?
Yeah.
Of you.
So I am Josiah. I'm a 27-year-old man. I have a cerebral palsy from the waist down, and it is something that I developed most likely in the womb. Now, we don't know a whole lot about how cerebral palsy comes to be, but in my particular case, as I said, it affects me from the waist down, which means primarily my legs. Also, my left side of my body is weaker than my right side, but that is also like a right hand, left hand dominance thing, so that's not necessarily due to my palsy, but my palsy does affect it. I am from South Korea. Ayo! I love Asian food. Rice is my favorite food. And then I really love anime and screamo music and sports and writing.
Yeah, so let's talk about our friendship. So Josiah and I met, actually, Josiah was an intern at a radio station group that I worked at. And we didn't really talk too much. We didn't really cross paths because he was interning more on the programming side. I was more on the admin side. So I maybe saw you, like twice, 3 times at the very most that I can remember.
I think one time you were at the front desk, and the other time you recorded us racing in the hallway.
Yeah, like your last day of your internship, one of our coworkers was like, hey, I'm going to sit in this chair with wheels on it, and Josiah, you're going to be in your wheelchair. We're going to race around the indoor of our office, and they asked me to film it, and I was like, okay.
And they did post it. Like, I was like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to get smoked? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
And you won.
I won. Of course I won.
You won, dude. And I was like, I didn't know you, so I was like, oh my gosh, is he gonna be offended by this? But you totally weren't. So
no, and you were like, yeah, you were probably like, is this okay to do, like, record?
Yeah, and it was. So then Josiah, after he finished his internship, he went back to school, and then when he graduated, he came back and got hired actually with us, and ever since then we've just been super close. So
yeah, tell them about the first time we decided, like, this person is going to be my friend.
We were doing corporate affidavits at the front desk,
which is super fun.
It's just like straight numbers all the time and typing, and just so we printed out like 700 pages of all these times because we had to record when the commercials ran. And so I would read out the times, and he would type in the times, and that one of the times kept coming up as 4:20, and I just slightly went, blaze it, and he started laughing.
We started laughing.
And ever since then, we've just been rolling and strolling ever since.
Rolling and strolling through the city.
By the way, none of us smoke weed. It was just, we don't smoke weed. It was just something stupid. But ever since then, we realized we had the same silly humor, which just kept growing, and it's really annoying. So you guys will definitely be witness to that. So that's how we met. We've had a lot of ups and downs, bumps in the road. We've also fought a lot, which is going to be exciting to talk about. We've been doing really, really well.
Did we fight a lot?
I think we had really intense
We've
fights.
had really a few fights, but it's like very intense. I am a very stubborn person. I'm very hard-headed, and it's hard for me to see a different point of view when I'm stuck on my own, which is another reason for this podcast, because I do get to see another side of the story, and we are going to talk about things that may not be as comfortable to talk about on a podcast, but we get to see each other's point of view in those moments or in that specific moment. And we even talked about like what are the things we want to talk about, and I had mentioned a particular event and you were like, okay, we can, but yeah. I think we are also very similar in the way that we think and how we act. And so I think we butt heads in that sense too. I don't know if you agree.
Oh, I agree fully. And I'm also very controlling, I think, sometimes. I like to be the boss. I like to have things my way. And that definitely butt heads with your stubbornness is me wanting to be in control of everything. And I think there were times where we just miscommunicated or didn't know how to communicate how we were wanting to treat each other or wanted to be treated by the other one. So I think we're so much better at that now.
Yeah, we are.
So
for sure.
That's gonna be interesting to hear our point of view on some of the little fights we had, but it helped us grow as friends, obviously, because we're still here doing a podcast.
And we're still best friends.
Yeah. And we understand a lot. And again, that's part of this podcast, is to help other people understand what a relationship could be like with somebody with CP or in a wheelchair, and vice versa. You know, how Josiah understands my side of things. So if you're a listener and you're wondering, you know, my best friend, am I a burden, or, you know, all those kinds of things that Josiah has go through his head, hopefully we can help you with that too, because it can be really brutal sometimes. I think I can see you get inside your head right now.
And
actually.
I think well, what I was gonna say is, like, I think that it's okay that we fight and have different perspectives on things and like try to like explain to each other how we're feeling, but we do that pretty quickly after something happens, but before we did not. It's okay. Some things are going to happen by virtue of one of you is non-disabled in this circumstance and one of you is disabled.
Mm-hmm. The frustrations that come with that, and us also being hard-headed and not wanting to share how we're feeling sometimes. And again, we'll get all into that because we have stories for days. So I want to talk about maybe some things that we have done together, just so our listeners can understand the experience that we're coming from.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So think of some of the things that we've done together that have been kind of monumental for you.
The first thing I remember we have done together that was huge for me was hike up Mount Cutler. I have never been up that high of my own doing. Of course, I've driven up Pikes Peak before, but that's in a car. So we were with another friend, and it was you, him, and me, and we took my old wheelchair. That was a big moment for me. That was just like, oh, I can do this. If I want to do something like hiking up a mountain, I can. And it's just going to look a little different, but as long as you got the right people with you who are willing to adjust with you and do that for you in a sense and with you, then you can do it.
I also want to add to that is, like, you wanted to do it. You have this thing about you where you don't let anything stop you. So if you're like, yo, I want to climb a mountain, most people are going to be like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you're in a wheelchair. Like, what do you mean? So the fact that you wanted to do it and you helped us, not us, I had nothing to do with it, I just filmed it, but like, you helped figure out how that was going to be done. Like, that shows a lot of heart, and it attracts people that also want to help you do those things, but not just help you, but be a part of it.
Yeah, I thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do this. Would you have any interest in it? And then, of course, you were right on board right away. And then we got the others on board, I think, and we did it. And we have done more.
So you've done a lot of hiking.
Yes.
And also what Josiah and I are very keen on is traveling. And I've learned a ton about how to travel with you, because it is different. It hit different. It is so easy for me to travel. I'm a huge solo traveler. Sorry, Mom. I know I shouldn't be, but I am. And like, it is so easy for me to just travel. And with you, I was so nervous about, and we'll get into our very first trip in a different episode, but like,
do you remember our first trip?
Yeah, man. I sure do. It was a wake-up call. But it also helps me and people that, you know, have to navigate the world with a wheelchair understand how difficult it is and how unfair and not accessible some places are and how kind of scary things are. Like the train at freaking DIA, I was terrified to ride that with you. And now it's like,
well, we did it.
Now it's like second nature, like, well, whatever. But like, yeah,
there was one time where we tried to do everything in our power to skip the train,
right?
And we went across the bridge.
We'll talk about that. How I'm all sweaty pushing you up that little hill, but then now it's fun because people laugh at the things that we say, and it'd be like that.
It'd be like that sometimes, and I feel like you mentioned people laugh at the things that we say. I feel like we are the ones laughing at the things that we say, and that's okay.
That's fine. That's totally fine. So yeah, traveling, and I think the third biggest thing that we do together that was a huge kind of like, whoa, this is crazy, is concerts.
Probably the best thing.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Roller and the Stroller here have connected deeply on music because that's how we met, is at a radio station, right? Yes. And we have similar tastes in music. You know, you hate some of the stuff I listen to and vice versa, but for the most part, we're jamming to the same stuff. I think our first concert wasn't it Snoop Dogg?
I think it was Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is not on my regular rotation.
No,
sorry,
it
Snoop.
is not. I don't know. I remember
it was at some concert venue. I think it was in Denver.
It was the Fiddler's Green.
Oh, we'll talk about the Fiddler's Green.
So it's kind of funny because our friendship happened on a 420 Blaze It affidavit time, and then our very first concert was on 420 at Snoop Dogg at Fiddler's Green.
And Migos. We did not stay for Migos.
We did not. We yeeted out of there, but. So hiking, traveling, and concerts are just three of the many, many things that we've done. But those probably are our biggest experience. And for me personally, I think those are the events that help me learn about you the most and the world around you the most.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I think so. Those are the things that come to mind. We've been to many different types of concerts at different types of venues in a variety of cities, so that's always going to be interesting. And then I'm not going to be hiking 14ers with you, but I will hike like Pulpit Rock and Orem's and Cutler and little smaller baby mountains with you, because it's all about the baby wheels.
Josiah not only is this badass hiker, but he skis. We actually went skiing for the very first time together last season, and we were planning on going. That was awesome. That was like so cool to see. And we could talk about how all of that happened and how it put together and what you have to go through to make that happen, how you get on a lift, how you get off a lift, how many people have to help you. But also I would love to talk to you about the day after and how you were feeling, like physically, because I didn't know about that, you know, when you ski, it's more in your hips and your back, correct?
Yes.
And that can cause you tons of pain.
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's a tough topic. But let me tell you, listeners out here, if you're thinking that Josiah, who's in a wheelchair, is skiing and he's going like super slow, don't get it twisted. This dude was flying down these mountains. I mean, it was nuts. We were doing blues. Did we hit a black? I can't remember.
No, we hit greens and blues.
Okay.
We did hit blues,
Yeah.
which I remember was a big accomplishment for me.
Again, so that was just lightly touching on our ski trip, but I think we'll have an episode on sports and just kind of go through all of them because they're very different, obviously.
They hit different. They hit different in 2023.
So now that we know...
Or when you have a disability.
Now that we know what we're going to talk about, I want to ask you something. Let's talk about first impressions of each other. So I would love
to hear you go first this time. Yeah.
Okay. So the first time I met you...
Should I be worried?
No.
Okay.
Very. No.
Oh, no.
No. The first time I met you, I'm just going to be honest. At this time, we were flying through interns. We had so many interns, I feel. I don't remember any of them. You know, again, most of them were programming. We never had interns on the admin side. Never. So I would see these interns. I would say, hey, what up? I remember like 3 of them. I would see them every once in a while, like remotes, and then a month later, they're gone. So when I met you, I just thought, I was like, oh, cool, another intern. Sick. I didn't think anything, because it did not affect my life at all. I mean, I was busting my butt on the other side, so I didn't really have any time to do things, and that sounds horrible, but like, I met you, and that was it. So my first impression of you was like, I never saw you, if that makes sense.
You didn't have one.
I didn't really have one. I just was like, oh, cool, an intern. Cool, get your credits, do the thing, and good luck.
Okay, so talk about when I came back. Because I don't think, based on what you just said, you expected me to come back.
I didn't, actually. I don't remember if we had followed each other on Instagram yet. I don't think we had. I think that was after you got hired, but...
No, that's a rite of passage.
Okay, got you.
So
I figured. You're pretty...
My Instagram is very private.
It is. So, we actually had just gotten... Our receptionist had just left, and our assistant business manager had just left. So it was me and my manager dying. Like, we were dying. Like, I can't even... That was probably the worst time of my life at that place. We, got, I would say, I don't know how many applicants. My job was to go through all their social media to make sure, that they didn't have anything weird on it. Well, guess what? Most people did. So we narrowed it down to about 3 people. One person wanted way too much money. I respect that, but we're media. We,
get that bread. It's bread time.
You don't get bread in media. Let's just throw that out.
we shouldn't say that.
I'm just being real with you.
We are media right now.
I know, but then we liked somebody else, and guess what? He didn't show up for his interview. We really liked him, but he didn't show up, so sad panda. So finally, we came across you and somebody else. My manager came up to me, and she's like, what do you think about this? And I was like, Josiah, isn't that the intern here that, and she was like, yeah, the one in the wheelchair. And I was
That's what she said?
I don't know if I said it or she said it, it probably was me, honestly, but like, I mean, to be fair, that's all I knew you by, and I don't like that. I don't like that I knew you as...
We are going to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't like that I knew you as the kid in the wheelchair, but it was what it was. Like, I was like, yeah, sick. Like, he was super, super cool. And I just remember, like, people on the programming side saying that he was freaking awesome and, like, really good at things. And so I vouched for you. And then so now getting to my first impression is when we called you in for an interview, I knew right away, like, this was good because you strolled in like you owned the place. Sorry, rolled in. You rolled in like you owned the place. And you had this stupid grin on your
kind of like now.
On your face. And I didn't even like make you wait in the lobby. I just let you in through the doors. Do you remember that? I was like, yo, just come on in. Like, and that was like a huge security breach at the time. And I just like didn't care.
Yeah, you probably should get fired.
Oh, I mean, I don't work there anymore, but it's okay. Yeah, and you nailed the interview, and I was so excited.
Did I?
Yeah, after you left, our boss came up to us, and she was like, yeah. I was like, sick, fam. And I just knew right away that you were going to have a really good like work ethic and just work out with our team really well, because me and my manager are super, super close. So bringing anybody in was kind of, a gamble. And we were nervous to bring anybody in that could ruin that. I know that sounds stupid, but it's the truth. So we knew that you would fit. Okay, your turn.
Okay, this is going to sound weird. The first impression I actually got from somebody else. This person asked me how I would feel being surrounded by ladies. And I was like, sir, I have 8 sisters. I'm good. But my first impression was you is like, because this is my first job post-grad. And I was like, oh no, like, how am I going to do this? I have to do things for myself. I have to like show that my degree was worth it and my time in higher education was worth it. All of that things you go through as a fresh young 22-year-old. And I think that I don't really have, it's all a blur is what I'm trying to say.
That's fair.
It was my first job. And then I do remember my first day because we had the schedule laid out and our manager at the time was going to introduce me to everybody in the building, but I had already knew the programming side. Mm-hmm. So she was like, okay, and then we're done. And then you kind of took over from there and was like, this is what you'll do. Because
I had to train you with everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We had to do a lot of affidavits at the time.
Clocks. Yeah. So.
And I didn't know how to do any of that, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But I learned.
Did you think I was annoying and bossy? Be honest.
No.
You're lying. You're freaking lying.
I'm not. I thought you were distant and didn't want to be like you were like, listen, you were kind of like, listen, I just am here to train you, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's like I was very straightforward.
We've got no time. I've got no time.
I was exhausted. I'm basically. So sorry.
Probably I was like, this is in my head. But you were like, I have no time for you. We have 2 hours to train you, and then that's it.
That's kind of what it was, to be honest.
I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh.
Yeah, back in those radio days, like, they were brutal. Mm-hmm. They were brutal. Now they're a little bit easier, but like, holy crap.
So my first impression of you was that you're very straightforward, and I have this weird thing where I'm like, okay, so we spend 8 hours of the day together, we might as well at least try to be friends. And so, but not everybody has that same mindset. So when people don't, I'm like, okay, I have to adjust. And so that's what I was going through. I was like, oh, I might have to adjust with you because I'm not sure if you want to be my friend. Lo and behold, you did. And we are.
We blazed it. We 420
blazed it. We did blaze it. But I think for me, and again, you may disagree, when I felt that you were my friend was at another place and not at work.
Where?
It was at the Whiskey Baron.
Oh, yeah, they're the homies. Okay, at the bar.
It was at the bar.
Where most friendships either come alive or burn.
Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, you cried. We can get into that.
I'm a very emotional person.
You are a very emotional person. I just love that because I'm not. And you bring that out in me. I've become more emotional since I've met you. So
is that do you think that's a good thing?
God, I hate it. I hate being emotional, but it'd be like that.
But your 2 besties,
your
2 best friends
are very emotional
people.
It's a little tough. So yeah, we're just gonna really quick as we end talk about some upcoming topics. We're gonna be talking about obviously the things that we do together and how they're altered. We're going to be talking about the laws about wheelchair and accessibility. We'll be talking about...
we're getting better.
Yeah. We'll be talking about chronic pain, which I think is going to be super sad, but it'd be like that. We're going to also talking about how things are available to me and not to you. We're also going to be talking about how my viewpoints of the world in general have changed, what I look out for now. How my friends have reacted to meeting you and, learning our relationship. All my friends love you. I don't know why you make that face. Also, I would love to talk about the attention that you get when we go to certain places, good and bad.
Whatever could you be referring to?
Good and bad.
You'll have to find out in a later episode.
We'll be talking about religion.
We'll talk about, yes, religion.
Prayer.
And then we'll talk about self-talk.
Oh, getting inside Josiah's mind. That's a little dangerous.
I know. do you want to say something about the schedule, like every Friday or whatever?
Oh, dude, I can't commit yet. I don't know.
Oh, I can't commit either. I don't know what I'm saying.
We'll figure it out as we go. Don't worry.
Thank you for listening. I have been the Roller.
And I am the Stroller.
Thank you for listening to the Roller and the Stroller podcast. We're rolling out.
This is a Sidewall Studios production.
Boom! Oh, we should keep that moving.